Good afternoon, students. This is Anshoo Sharma from Government College, Chaksu, and today I shall be doing the analysis of the Ode to West Wind. If you remember earlier, I had finished with the first three stanzas of the poem, where the poet is talking about death and rebirth, and specifically talking about the effect of the west wind over land, over the sky, and the sea. And I'll just quickly recapitulate a bit of what I had done earlier before I start off with the fourth stanza. And then finally, we'll move on to the fifth stanza, and that would be the final, uh, uh, completion of the poem. So, if you have gone through the earlier video, you would have noticed that throughout the ode to the west wind, the speaker is describing the west wind as a powerful and as a destructive force because it drives away the summer and brings in its place the winter storms, the chaos, and even death. Now, the death is of everything that has come to the natural end of its life cycle. Like, for example, the colorless leaves, the sapless foliage under the sea. Yet the speaker celebrates the west wind at the same time because he welcomes the destruction that the west wind leads to, the west wind causes, because only after this destruction is renewal and rebirth going to take place. The west wind is not peaceful or pleasant. It is, as the speaker notes, it is the breath of autumn's being. This is there in the earlier stanzas, and autumn is considered to be a transitional season when summers, that peak summer where everything is, there's abundance of everything, it starts to fade. And everywhere the speaker looks, he finds that the west wind drives away the abundance, drives away the peace with its space, with its speed, and it strips the leaves from the trees. It whips up the sky. It causes storms over the sky, on the land, as well as the ocean. And we have seen that in the first section of the poem, the speaker compares the dead leaves to the west wind blows, which kind of creates a ruckus, and he compares those leaves to the ghosts and pestilence stricken multitudes that I had told you, that as if the leaves are suffering from tuberculosis. They have become so colorless, white, pale, and the west wind turns the fall colors into something scary, which is associated with sickness and death. Then he moves on to talking about the effect on the sky. So he says that similarly, the clouds in the second section of the poem, they look like the bright hair uplifted from the head of some fierce Maenad. In Greek mythology, I had told you that Maenads were female followers of the god of wine. Okay, and they were famous for their wild parties and their dancing, and they're often portrayed with their hair all over, as it's like blowing in the wind. So this is the comparison that comes to the poet's mind. The west wind thus makes the clouds look very wild, and it seems as if they are drunk. They are out there to create chaos. There is lightning, there is a lot of rainfall, and unlike its sister of spring, which spreads sweet smells and beautiful flowers, the speaker associates the west wind with chaos and death. Now this is the contrast between spring and west wind. One leads to chaos and death, and the other leads to rebirth, to beauty, to creation of new things. But despite the destructive power of the west wind, the speaker celebrates it. Why? Because only if death comes will rebirth follow. And therefore, you can say that destruction is necessary for rebirth. And as the speaker notes at the end of the poem's first section, the west wind is both a destroyer as well as a preserver. These were the first two. I mean, in the very first stanza, you notice these words. They're very important, and he addresses the west wind as both a destroyer and a preserver. And these are the traditional names. As I had told you towards the end, that a preserver is, even in our Hindu mythology, preserver is Vishnu, and Shiv is the power of destruction, who's there to destroy. But both of them are beneficial, both of them are needed for the preservation of this life on this earth. Then the west wind, he says, combines these two opposite figures. And in the final lines, we'll be doing this towards the end, that is in the fifth stanza. There's hope when he says that if oh wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So if there is destruction, if there is death, then there is rebirth, there is life which is going to come next. So the west wind is able to merge these opposites, because firstly death is required for life and winter is required for spring. So in order to have a beautiful renewal and rebirth that spring is going to bring about, one needs the powerful and the destructive force of the west wind to finish off everything that has reached towards the end, which has reached towards the fag end of its life. So, this death and rebirth and the effect of the west wind, I discussed with you in the first three stanzas. I had explicitly explained the effect of the west wind on the land, the sky, and the sea. So, in short, I have just, quickly redone what we had done in the earlier video. And now I'll talk about what the poet says in the fourth stanza. I'll quickly read the fourth stanza. This is the first, second, and third that I talked about. Now, the fourth stanza. It's there on your screens, and please see. I have again underlined the different words, the different important things that I want to concentrate upon. You can see here that in the first three lines, the poet is kind of now comparing himself with the west wind. In the first three stanzas, it is the effect of the west wind on land, sea, and air. Now, in this stanza, he is talking about himself vis-a-vis the west wind, and he draws comparisons, and he says, if I were a dead leaf thou mightest bear, if I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, a wave to pant beneath thy power, and share the impulse of thy strength, only less free than thou, O uncontrollable, if even I were as in my boyhood, and could be the comrade of thy wanderings over heaven. As then, when to outstrip thy skyey speed scarce seemed a vision, I would never have striven, as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. So, in these lines, I am not reading the whole stanza, because these lines that I have just read, they are like one chunk of a single idea that the poet is talking about. Now, see, in the first two lines, I have underlined if I. Now, why this? If I, this is because he is talking about supposition. He is talking about something, that if I was like a dead leaf, he's talking about a possibility, or you can say that he's drawing a comparison. And he says that if I was also like the dead leaf, then you would have carried me, because there was a possibility that just like the fast speed of yours, it carries away all the dead leaves with it. Similarly, if I was also a dead leaf, you would have carried me along. And if I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, or if I was a cloud, then again you would have taken me along with you. So if I, these words are important because he's drawing a comparison. He's supposing, he's assuming that about a possibility that if he was a dead leaf or if he was a cloud, then the wind would have had a similar effect on him as well. And then he says, pant. What does the word pant mean? Here, pant means breathless. When you are moving with, very fast speed, then it happens, it's a natural effect that you become breathless. So he says, a wave to pant beneath thy power. Beneath thy power, that I would, kind of bow down to your power. I would kind of, you would, but if I was a wave, you would take me along with you. I would move beneath your power. In the third stanza, I had talked about it, where he says that the west wind has that kind of a power that the mighty ocean also, gets cleaved, it gets separated to allow the movement of the west wind. That is the power of the west wind. Then you see again in the next couple of lines, I have marked the word strength and uncontrollable. Now these are again highlighting the power as well as the mood of the west wind, that it cannot be controlled by anybody, right? Then I have underlined the word boyhood, which means youth. This is if I was younger. Then in the next line, please note, I have underlined the word comrade. What does comrade mean? Comrade means companion. Then outstrip, outstrip means surpass. Sky speed means swiftness over the sky. Vision means dream. Soar means urgent. Soar here is not something that you develop on your feet or your body. It's not here. It does not mean any kind of a wound. Here it means urgent. That it is the need of the hour. Then till here, what is the poet trying to say? He says that if I was a dead leaf, you might have carried me. And if I was a cloud, again, I might have, flown along with you. Or if I was a wave, then you would have driven me forward and I would have shared your strength. Though, in comparison to you, I would be much less freer, because your strength, your speed is something beyond a ordinary mortal like myself, and nobody can control you. Uncontrollable, nobody has any kind of power over you. Rather, you have power over everyone. And if only I could be the way I was when I was a child, when I was younger, youth, when I was young, then at that time I would have been your friend, because you must have seen children. They they run along with the wind. They are kind of, sometimes you are flying your kites, you are running free, you have no worries, and you wander along with the wind. You are as careless, as fearless, as carefree as the wind when you are younger. So the poet says that if only I could be like when I was a child, and I would be your friend, I would be wandering along with you across the sky. And at that time, it did not seem crazy to imagine that I could be as fast as you are, because when you are younger, there is a kind of a feeling that you can achieve anything that you set out to achieve. So, the same feeling, the same idea the poet is talking about here. And he says that at that time, it did not seem crazy to imagine that I could have the same speed as you. I could run along with you. The way you ran, the way you moved, with the similar speed, with the similar agility, even I could move, even I could run. And then I wouldn't have called out to you or prayed to you in desperation, because at that point of time when I was younger, I was quite powerful. I myself was quite powerful, and I wouldn't have the need to pray to you, or wouldn't have the need to request you to bring about a change in me. There was no kind of desperation that I experience now when I have become older. Now there is a certain desperation, and therefore here I am. I'm supplicating to you, I'm praying to you to give me power. But when I was younger, all this was not required. Then he says, oh, lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. Now, the three things, a wave, a leaf, a cloud, this is again reference to the first three paragraphs, where he's talking about the effect of the west wind on the wave, a leaf, and the cloud. So here the imagery has been taken from the first three stanzas, and he repeats this. He says, please lift me, just as you lifted the leaf, just as you lifted the cloud, just as you cleaved the wave. In the similar manner, please lift me. Why? Because now at this point of time, I fall upon the thorns of life and I bleed, because I am surrounded by worries, I am surrounded by troubles, I am suffering, and life has been kind of not very easy for me. So, the life, whatever it has served me, whatever troubles that I am facing, whatever worries that I am facing, I request you that please, just like the wave, just like the leaf, just like the cloud, at this point of time, in a similar manner, please lift me also, because I am falling into the life's sharp thorns and I am bleeding. And he says, a heavy weight of ours has changed and bowed, one too like thee, tameless and swift and proud. Now, these two lines again, you can see the end rhyme is also there, bowed and proud. But specifically, please note this, that he is talking about time. And he says that time has not been very kind. It has been like a heavy weight. Heavy weight of ours has chained and bowed. Heavy weight of the time. The time has been ruthless. The time has been unkind towards him. And it has put him in shackles. It has imprisoned him. And it has diminished his pride. Whatever strength that he had earlier, he does not have the same strength now, because life has not been too kind, and therefore his pride also has been affected. When he was younger, he was very proud, he was powerful, he considered himself to be as swift, as fast as the west wind. But now, in the present time, that pride is no longer experienced by the poet, because he finds himself to be weak, he finds himself to be lost, and he feels that once I was proud, I was fast, and I was as unruly, as uncontrollable as you are. And but at the present time, life has been very, very tough for me, and I feel as if only if you are kind towards me now, if you want, you can take me up again, you can lift me up like a cloud, like a wave, like a leaf, and free me from these shackles, free me from these bindings. And who am I? After all, I am also someone like you. Once upon a time, I was like you. One too like thee. Thee means you. I too was as free as you are now. And here at this point of time, the poet is drawing a parallel with himself and the west wind. Now you can see at the end of the fourth stanza, a parallel has been drawn. Okay? And you can see the adjectives that have been used. I've underlined them: tameless, somebody that cannot be tamed, that cannot be subdued; swift, somebody that is fast, that has a lot of speed, that is quick. Again, that indicates a kind of power. And finally, proud. Proud, somebody who feels very proud of his or her achievements. Somebody who feels that I am a person who can attain great heights. So you feel very powerful, you feel very proud at your achievements, or the capacity that you have, or the capability you have of reaching certain heights. So these adjectives that have been used for the west wind, which signify freedom, which signify speed, which signify dignity, the same adjectives the poet feels were once upon a time applicable on himself as well. But at present, all these things the poet feels he no longer has, and he wants that the west wind should kind of take away all these problems, take away all this despondent mood that the poet is suffering from. He wants this depression to be uplifted. He wants all the problems, all the troubles, all the fears that the poet has to be taken away by the west wind. And only then the poet feels that he will be able to regenerate and rebirth, new ideas will be reborn, and a utopian world would finally be created through his ideas. So this is the fourth stanza, and you can see it is a beautiful imagery that the poet has made use of. And the poet, again, you can see the spirit of the poet is very clear here, that though life has been unkind, though life has been tough, but at the same time the feeling of a possibility of a brighter future, that is there. So a hint of hope, you can say, is very much visible here in this stanza, is clear in this stanza. And after this, in the fifth stanza, the poet is again further going to elaborate upon this concept. I'll end here now, because the fifth stanza again and the concluding explanation will take some more time, and I'll do that in the next video. So again, I hope this video is clear. This makes certain concepts clear about what the poet is trying to say through the idea of the west wind and its effect on the poet and the world around him. Once again, thank you for your patient listening. Uh, Good day.